Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back to the show, everyone. We're going to be listening to a conversation I had with Laura Lane, and if you go to lauralane.ca, you'll learn a lot more about her. But one of the big things I do want you to understand, because she has this thing called Grace Under Pressure, and she had an exceptional daughter, and I do mean had an exceptional daughter. Her daughter passed away many years ago from cancer, and Laura Lane wrote a book about it. And if you go to Amazon and you search for Laura Lane, you will find her book about two mothers who have two daughters with the same type of cancer in the same spot, and they're both going through the treatments together. But through that experience, she's come up with something even better. It's something that's going to help every parent who has a child with cancer deal with it. It's a planner, and this planner, or it's a journal, it can be a keepsake, but it helps you keep track of everything. You won't forget those memories, and you won't forget the medications and the procedures and all that kind of stuff. It becomes not only a keepsake, but a medical file for your child. And there's nothing more precious in our lives than our children. And for Laura to be as brave as she is and courageous as she is to not only develop a coaching system, but a support system, and then on top of that, to develop these journals that will actually give back to the system that helped her daughter, and give to the parents who they just need this support. So let's listen to the conversation I had with Laura. She's an amazing, amazing person and a really good friend. So she's going to talk to us more about those journals and more about her journey as a person. Just trying to keep going day after day. So welcome her to the show. So we have Laura Lane with us, and I have to correct something. I said in the intro that you developed a journal. You say it's a planner, so I have to correct myself. Everybody, it is a planner that she developed, and there's a specific reason why you say it is a planner. So why don't you tell us why it's a planner and what inspired the planner to come to life?
Okay, sure. So we call it a daily planner, and it's the daily planner for the most amazing moms on the planet. And the difference between a journal and a planner is a journal is usually something you just sort of write your thoughts and write it on a daily basis. Well, a daily planner is to keep track of everything. So what happened, how this all came about, was I asked a whole bunch of cancer moms what they wish they had learned when their child had first been diagnosed. So like, what do you know now that you wish someone had told you days, months, years earlier? And so I got all this incredible advice that came back from these women. And I noticed that a number of them talked about the importance of keeping track of everything, because there's so much to keep track of when a child has cancer. So first there's the diagnosis, and then they give you a treatment plan. And then there's the whole medical team, from the oncologist to the child life specialist to the social worker to the chief nurse to the radiologist to there's all of these medical team who are there to support us. And so keeping track of that. And then who's available to help. So the first thing we did when Celeste was diagnosed is I made a whole bunch of phone calls and said, "Hey, we're going to need some help. We need someone to look after Grayson for us when we go into the hospital. We need, like, we just called on all friends and family. So we have a whole section in the book that's for that. And then we have, so I'm going to just pull this up in front of me, resources, like what resources are available to me. And then, and prescriptions, and because like there's just so many different pills and things that they need to take and be able to track all of that. So then there's the appointments. So there's the doctor's appointments are coming up, and then there's the ones that they've scheduled for a couple of months down the road for follow-up, or sometimes it just takes a while to get into. So we have a calendar. So we've got a monthly calendar, and then taking a look at a week at the glance. So there's medical appointments and other appointments and a meal plan, like who's thinking about who's going to feed my family. And if someone's bringing in a meal, I want to make sure I've got it written down somewhere. And do we have a shopping list of things that we need? Who are my helpers this week? Do I have any questions for the medical team? And then when Celeste was in treatment itself, when she was doing her chemo, there was blood counts every single day. So we could see what her white blood counts were, her and her polys and the hemoglobins and the platelets and all of that. So we've got a whole section just to keep track of that on a weekly basis. And then on a daily basis, like who's my nurse? And that changes twice a day. So who's our nurse in the morning and who's it in the evening? Does she have any symptoms? What medications have they given her today? Because there's importance to correlate the two to keep track of. Like if she's been given this medication and all of a sudden she has these particular symptoms, then we can sort of correlate and go, well, every time you give her this medication, she has this symptoms. And this is something that happened with Celeste, and the particular reactions to the medications. And then how well is she sleeping, and is she eating properly? And I've got kids at home, so who's helping with childcare? And is there any school stuff that I need to keep track of? And what's going on at home? And what is our hourly schedule? So all of these things, we just thought of all the stuff that moms have to keep track of, and I put it all in the daily planner. So they can go on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis and be able to sort of schedule things in advance and have it all in one place. And whoever ends up at the hospital can be handing over the planner and go, okay, mom, it's your turn. Dad's your turn. Grandma's coming for the day. Grandma, here's the planner. So everything can be kept together.
Oh, you said a couple of things that I want people to understand. As a community, we can actually step up and help mom and family with these things. And it's something that my wife and I we do when we hear of a family that's having a difficulty. We cook and deliver.
Mhm.
It's like, I mean, and you mentioned that right there. Who could be delivering food?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's something that as a community, it's not that hard to do.
Mhm.
Or it's not that hard to go pick up a bucket of chicken or something and drop it off to say, hey, we
Mhm.
know that you're going through a time, and we want you to know that at least emotionally we're here for you to lean on, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the things that I noticed is people would ask how they could help. And my brain was so full, sometimes I didn't know. But if I've got this planner in front of me, I can open it up and go, what's on here that I could ask somebody else to do? Because I have a to-do list, I have a shopping list, I have a meal plan, and I could say, you know what? We could really use a meal at the house on Friday. Or
Yeah.
laundry needs to be done because I had a friend show up at the hospital and collect my laundry for me, wash it, and bring it back folded.
I've known people to do that. Not my thing. I don't do laundry that way, because if you want it back, you're going to get in a big heap, not folded. That may be worse, right? Um, but but one of the other things that I've also known people to do, if you're surrounded by, I was surrounded by engineers, and they would help mom mom and dad with the kids' homework.
Hmm. Oh,
I was
that'd
like,
be awesome.
that
Yep.
lift something away. What if? And that's the thing is, as a community, we have a skill. Go ahead
Hmm.
and just give it to help your neighbor, right?
Yep.
So,
Can
and that
can I go
planner is
pick
very
up
wonderful.
Susie? Yeah, can I take Susie to soccer practice for her? Can I pick up Johnny from daycare for you? Um,
Yeah,
those can be a lifesaver just in and of itself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, you also mentioned nurses and staff and all that. Now, I had the experience of having a child who was in the NICU for 3 months.
Mm, long
To
time.
write their name on the board, um, who the doctor on call was. They write you had a board
Hmm.
and it said Micah and the nurse for this shift is
Yep.
and
Hmm.
her name or his name.
Hmm.
Um, and then the doctor on call and it was her name or his name um, on there. I don't know if all hospitals do that, but you know,
We had that at Sick Kids for sure, that
yeah.
they had the same thing that our nurse, so the nurse would come in, introduce herself for the shift, and then she'd write her name on the board.
Mhm. So, and that was a great help. It just made you feel comfortable, right? So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. Well, it's hard to
it,
remember these things too on our own without having it written down that she comes in, she's going to tell me a whole bunch of things. And then, am I going to remember her name? No, because there were so many other things that were more important to me, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I'll be honest with you. As a NICU dad, I used to get in trouble all the time because I would read the chart. The nurses, the
Is-
doctors were fine with me reading the chart. It was the nurses that used to slap my hands. It's like you're not allowed to read the chart. And to parents out there, don't read the chart. Trust me.
Depends on
They,
your team, I think.
yeah. If they warmly invite you to read the chart, otherwise don't read the chart because you might see something in there that you don't want to, or you
Mm.
might um I don't know how else to put that because I remember reading something in there that I slapped it shut, laid it down, and my wife at the time, my ex-wife now, she went to reach for it and I said don't because you can't be there all the time and something happened while we were gone that was going to be very upsetting. He had
Mm.
both of his lungs collapse
Oh.
and it took them 4 minutes to reinflate because they had to read down what happened and how long it took the treatment to work.
Hmm. Yep.
So, um, and so, but that leads me to something else. You, your mom, you're sitting in the doctor office, and they say, "Well, Miss Laura Lane, your daughter Celeste has," and there's your diagnosis. What do you really remember?
So I remember the room that we were sitting in. It was a tiny little room that we had all cram in there. And they gave us the diagnosis. Now, of course, in our case with Celeste, because she had a brain tumor, we knew beforehand that we just didn't know the name. We knew because the days she went into the doctor's office, he said she needed to go to the emergency. Then she had a CAT scan by 2 in the afternoon. She had an MRI by dinner time, and she was in emergency neurosurgery at 9:30 at night. So we knew from the initial CAT scan and from the MRI that there's something there that they don't know what it is. and they needed to go and do surgery. It was building up pressure of the fluid in her brain, so she had what's called hydrocephalus. And so she was in a great deal of pain, having terrible headaches, and she had developed double vision. So they knew that that was a sign that there was something really wrong. So she had her surgery. They were able to relieve the pressure on her brain, but because it was in a spot that is very difficult to reach, on the pineal gland. And so if this is the brain stem, and it's way down there, so not easy to get at. It's not at the top of the brain or anything. So first surgeon wasn't able to get a sample of the tissue. They then said, okay, we'll need to transfer you. She had been in London, Ontario. They transferred her to Toronto to Sick Kids. And then scheduled a second surgery. And then Dr. Drake, who's one of the top neurosurgeons in Canada, he then did a second biopsy and was able to get a sample. And then we were able to get our diagnosis. But at that point, we pretty much knew she's got some sort of tumor. We just didn't know the name of it and what type of tumor. So then when they sat down, they explained to us it's pineoblastoma, which is extremely rare. The chances of getting it is 1 in 7 million. There were not any other children at our hospital who had pineoblastoma at that time, and because there were just so few children. And then they then said, well, we don't have a treatment plan for it, but St. Jude's Hospital in the States, they're the one who deals with this type of tumor, and they've developed a treatment plan, and we're going to follow their protocol. And then they explained, okay, what that means is there will be 30 rounds of radiation, high dose radiation on the brain, and then followed by 4 to 6 months of high dose chemotherapy and stem cell rescue. So we would prep for so many days, then she would be given then the chemo would start, and then she would be given the stem cells to help boost things back up for her. And it would take a month to go through that whole process, and then they do it again a second month and then a third month. The plan was to do it 4 to 6 times, but Celeste was only able to do it for 3 times. Because it was just so difficult on her. After the third one, they said, you know what, we're going to stop now. So.
Was that the doctor's decision to stop, or hers?
Yeah. Yes. So she did really well during the radiation. She was able to still go to school, and even though she was having daily radiation, she was able to sort of have a fairly normal life. But when she was doing her chemo, each session got harder and harder. The third round, that third month, we almost lost her. Her blood pressure had dropped. They had to raise her to the ICU. And they said, you know what? They didn't think it was worth risking doing another round. At that point, her tumor had shrunk like 82%. So they felt like they had done quite a bit. And it would continue to shrink over the months that followed. So in the end, her tumors did shrink 98.5%. So it was almost completely gone within a year later.
Well, that sounds pretty positive.
Yeah. But then unfortunately, when we were looking to see the next MRI that we thought she would have her no evidence of disease, that we thought, okay, well, this next MRI is going to be completely gone. They said, no, actually, they were finding new spots. The cancer had spread to other places instead. So while we were able to pretty much eliminate everything on the original tumor, it decided to go elsewhere and spread. And then she lived about 6 months after that.
And she's living with the angels now.
Yeah.
And you actually wrote a book about this whole experience, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It's called Two Mothers, One Prayer, Facing Your Child's Cancer with Hope, Strength, and Courage. So when Celeste was first diagnosed, they gave us the treatment plan and all of this. And I made the decision that I was just going to just take what the doctor's given us. I wasn't going to go and look online, because just like when you opened up your child's, your baby's file, and you had saw something that scared you, I was worried that if I went online and started researching this particular type of cancer, that I would find things that would frighten me, and or just make it a lot harder to deal with what we had at the moment. So I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go online. We're just going to stick with the research that the doctors have given us, and everything from St. Jude's, and that's what I was going to do. And I was very clear about that and comfortable with it. And a few months later, I get this nudge, this spiritual sort of kick in the pants that said, "Hey, Laura, you should go and look online." And I said, "No," I said I wasn't going to do that. So I had this argument that went back and forth with Spirit until I finally said, "Okay, fine, I'll go and look." And I opened up my website, I opened up my computer, and I Googled pineoblastoma. And the first thing that came up was a website that was created by another mom. And she was explaining about what the pineoblastoma is and the treatment, and she had created a page specifically listing all the kids that she had ever found that had it, because there were so few children who are diagnosed. She was able to make a fairly exhaustive list of the children that did have it. And so I'm scrolling through this list, and I don't even know why I'm scrolling through this list, but I am. And there's like a 15-year-old boy, and he was diagnosed in 1986. And here's a 3-year-old girl, and she's diagnosed in 1992. And going through this list, and then there's this 12-year-old girl who was diagnosed in February 2011. I'm like, but my Celeste, she's 12 years old, and she was diagnosed in February 2011. So I'm like, there's another girl out there the same age as my daughter going through this at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And there happened to be a website for her care pages where her family was keeping track and letting people know how she was doing. Excuse me for a second. And so I reached out to this family. So this other little girl, her name is Haley.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to her family and said, "Hey, my daughter has the same diagnosis as your daughter." And I find out that Haley, her mom, is Lori. So I'm
You're
Laura,
Laura.
and she's Lori, and we both have daughters who have the same cancer at the same time. Well, Lori and I went from being complete strangers to best friends practically overnight. They didn't know anyone else who had the same diagnosis. Certainly no one in their hospital either. And they were living down in New Jersey, and they were at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia at CHOP.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're 500 miles apart, and yet we found each other. And I really feel that it wasn't a coincidence. I really feel that we were guided to find each other. It was an answer to both of our prayers. And it was a beautiful blessing for both Celeste and Haley to have someone who knew exactly what they were going through. That each of the girls, we put them on a Skype call, and they sat there. They were like two little old ladies comparing their war wounds and showing each other the exact same scars that they have, and the things that they were feeling, and everything that was going on that both girls were doing parallel in their lives. And it was such an incredible blessing to them, and an incredible blessing to Lori and I. And one of the things I also learned was this other family, they were doing something else that was similar to us. So when Celeste was first diagnosed, I wanted her to feel the love and support of everyone around us. And I had asked people to pray for her, and I had asked people to pray for her all over the world. So I had contacts through my colleagues all around the world, and I asked people to pray for her. And every time someone would come back and say that they were, I would write it on a sticky note. And I would put the sticky note on the walls of her hospital room. And so the nurses would come in and they'd look around. They're like, what is this? Like, what are all these like yellow sticky notes? And I'm like, these are all the people praying for Celeste. So that she literally felt surrounded by the love and support of so many people. So whether it was someone in Australia or Sweden or Singapore or the United States or the United Kingdom or Canada, she would see how many people were praying for her. So that's what we were doing. Haley and her family had asked people to pray for her all over the world, and they had a big map of the world, and they would put pins for all the different spots that people were praying for her. And so I got this inspiration that I just needed to tell the world about these two amazing little girls and their faith and everything that had happened. And so I got this inspiration. I needed to write a book about them. And so the book is introducing people to Celeste and her journey and Haley and her journey. And then I kept all of the emails that went back and forth between Lori and I. And so you get to see the development of our relationship from like complete strangers to best friends and all the emails that went back and forth, and then all the things that we learned that would help other parents going through the same thing. So, and
The planner.
yep. And then that later on led to creating the planner.
Yeah.
So
that is a fantastic story. Now I do remember this with Micah, that we did a prayer chain, and do you know how many Presbyterians there are in the world?
a lot.
The prayer chain went global. Now I will say this. Part of that was I was one of the pastors and elders of this particular church at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So people really went to work on it, but I because I believe in the goodness of people's hearts, I think that they would have worked just as hard had I just been a member of the congregation in general. Yep. So
of course,
and
yes.
you're when I saw your book and I saw this particular part in your book, as it proved it. Mm-hmm. It proved it that people just want to be kind. Mm-hmm. You know, if you give them the right opportunity, they just want to be kind.
Yep, people are amazing.
Yeah. Sorry. I needed a breath there. This isn't. It's at this point. It's like you know, my son. He's grown. You know, it's like he's do all that, and you have this wonderful spirit who's still looking over your shoulder. Mm-hmm. You know? So it's everything happened, and eventually I guess through, because you made this wonderful and we released this on a Sunday offering show, your statement of faith.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I just thought it was absolutely beautiful how you saw faith. And so I have no problem saying this to you now, that it's like in God's eyes, it all worked out the way it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. And that we're on the paths that we're supposed to be on because of our experiences, right? Mm-hmm. But how do people get a hold of the planner now?
So we have now created a website. It's up I think it's mostly functional. We're putting in a link so that people can order a copy of the planner, or if you want to sponsor the planner for someone else. So if you don't need it in your own life, but you would see the benefit of getting these planners are being given to moms in the hospital. And we're doing that by having them sponsored by corporations or by individuals. So on the website, you can click on order a copy or sponsor a copy. And then we will you'll put in your contact information and we'll reach out to you and make sure that we'll either get the planner to you, or we'll make sure that your name goes in a planner, or your business can sponsor so many copies, and we'll reach out and make that connection for you.
How many have you given out so far?
So we've done 100 so far.
So far.
Yeah. So, and the planner is coming out every 4 months. So our initial batch was September to December. So we've done that, 100 copies. And then our next batch will be in the planner will go from January to April. And then we go May to August, and then September to December again. So, yeah.
I know. Okay, for another cause, I did a calendar, and it took me now this isn't including the selection of photographs, because I had photographs from a walk that we did across British Columbia. So it didn't include the selection of photographs. It didn't include some of the other little tidbits that had to go in there, like there was some kind of unit conversion or something like that from metric to English or whatever. It didn't include any of that kind of stuff, right? It just included actually building the calendar itself. And it took me 24 working hours to do. That's just a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking plan.
Yeah. So we started the actual build of the planner in the spring of 2021. So just under 18 months to get from idea to print. And then now it's all been about getting the planners out there and getting the sponsors. So yeah, a few more than 24 hours.
Now, when people look, you show me. I don't have a physical copy of the planner because that would just be unfair for me to have a copy of it, because it should go to a mom or a dad who needs the planner to document what's going on with their child and everything. So it'd be like kind of cruel for me to have one, because I'm not at that stage. You showed me pictures of it, and it's like the amount of work, and there's illustrations. It's a piece of art as well as being functional.
I am so thrilled with my designers, my design team, between Megan and Ellen. They did a phenomenal. Well, Megan did the majority of the design work. Ellen just sort of cleaned up, just tweaked things a little bit for us. But Megan did an incredible job. She made it beautiful. We've got beautiful design elements all the way through it, and just thrilled. At the beginning of every month, we have a beautiful page with flowers and a beautiful pattern that goes throughout the planner. But we have a quote, so we have positive quotes at the beginning of every month, and then on the week at a glance page, we have either a combination of cancer mom tips, so all that advice that I asked different moms. So we've got that cancer mom tips, or we have other quotes as well. So alternating weeks.
Yeah, yeah. So you didn't leave out a detail.
We tried to think of everything. And then what we've also done is we've created on the website. So I forgot to mention. So the website is strongerplanner.com. And when you go to there, there's also a feedback form. So the moms who've received a copy, we have also requested that they give us some feedback. Tell us what things you found were most useful. Did we miss something out? Is there something in here you like, you know what, I don't need this part at all. We're
Hmm.
trying to get all of that feedback from moms so that when we have the next edition, we can tweak it a little more and make it even better.
So it's an ongoing work.
Yes. Yeah. So we will continue to make this the best planner we can.
So strongerplanner.com.
Yes.
Um, oh geez, we're getting close to that marker again. Oh my God, how do we keep doing this?
I could talk all day, Michael.
Yeah, I know we both could, but the show has to be finite,
Yeah.
or else we start to lose people. Um, what's the ultimate goal? What do you want this planner to actually do in the end?
Bless the lives of parents around the world. So we're starting here in Canada, but this is going to roll out to the United States, to the United Kingdom, to Australia, New Zealand, all the English speaking countries. And when we've got someone who will translate it for us, we'll go into multiple languages as well. But the icing on the cake is I recognize that not everybody likes paper. I like paper, but not everybody likes paper. Some people like to do everything on their phone. So we're actually going to be building an app so that parents can keep track of everything on their phone. All the things that are in this daily planner, they'll have access to plus more, and we can make that available free around the world. So the goal is to start with, well, the sad part about childhood cancer is every year there are over 300,000 children who are diagnosed with cancer every year. And we want to make sure that we have tools to help those parents, those families every year. So the goal is to have 250,000 downloads on a yearly basis so that we can touch the lives of parents and get them the resources that they need to be the best and strongest parent they can be.
I have to say, I think you're going to reach your goal, um, because this is something straight from the heart. So, um, if you had a planner like this for Celeste, would it now be a keepsake?
Oh yes, definitely. I still have the notebook. So I wasn't given a planner when Celeste was diagnosed, but I was given a notebook to keep track of everything, and I still have that notebook. And it has her blood counts in it, and it has like the notes from like the things that we wrote down that the doctor told us and all of those things. And it was just this tiny little thing. This would be something I would hold on to forever because it would be mapping out like huge chunk of our life, an important part. And I would have so many more things that I could keep track of and write down about Celeste and to remember and bring me back to those day-to-day happenings.
Yeah.
And the people who and not only that, but the people who helped, because there's a helper section in here, and that way I wouldn't forget all of to realize just how loved and supported we were because there were people who were helping us on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah. So you were given a notebook, and you're coming up with something that extends that notebook. Because I imagine that you probably have notes of people to just wanted to show you love.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a wonderful thing you're doing.
Thank you.
So yeah. So strongerplanner.com is where we get it. And if you're a business in a community where you know that there's childhood cancer, I implore you to go to that website and sponsor some.
Mm-hmm. If when businesses contact us, they can tell us where their nearest children's hospital is, and we will get the planners to their local hospital.
Yeah.
So if you sponsor 100 planners, it doesn't have to go to Toronto. If you're in Vancouver, then we'll get the planners to Vancouver. If you're in New York City and you want to sponsor planners going to Sloan Kettering, we'll make sure they get delivered to Sloan Kettering.
Okay. So there you have it. If you're a business person listening to this show, and you're in the United States, because hey, a lot of you are, just go ahead to and contact her. Contact Laura through strongerplanner.com, and she will help you with that sponsor process so that those planners get to the right communities.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and let me just say one more thing about those incredible businesses. We have space within the planner. So when you open it up, we have a pocket for parents to put things in, and we can put logos on there. So we want to acknowledge our sponsors. So not only if you're able to sponsor 100 copies going to Sloan Kettering, we'll make sure that those planners have your logo on it. We have a full page spread if you can sponsor even more than 100. That there are spots here that we want to acknowledge our incredible partners.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Michael.
It's always wonderful to see you and speak with you. I know everybody's listening; it's audio only, but hey, I have had the pleasure of seeing Laura on Zoom, and her wonderful smile. And if you're in what part of Ontario?
So I'm in the Bruce Peninsula, north of Toronto.
Okay, so if you're up there and you have to be visiting, and because you also have a whole coaching practice too, don't you?
Yep. So I'm a coach. I have lots of different hats. I'm an author, a speaker, a coach. I'm a courage coach. I help people to cope with the craziness of today's world.
Yeah.
And we do workshops and retreats as well.
Yeah, and you can find that for those in the United States, do not type in .com. It is lauralane.ca.
Yes.
Because
.com is a reporter in Washington State.
Yeah.
Or Portland or something.
Again, probably a very wonderful person, but not a courage coach.
Yeah.
So, because I make that mistake myself. lauralane.ca if you want to work with Laura as a coach, or just give her a shout out about the wonderful work that she's doing with cancer moms and cancer dads. So lots of ways to get a hold of her and work with her and see that beautiful smile that she has and her big heart full of love. Okay, so again, thank you for joining us, Laura.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And before I forget, find that subscribe button wherever it is, because different platforms have it in different spots, and we're on just about we're on over 100 different platforms. So however you found this, click on that subscribe button, and so you can keep getting updates from this particular show wherever you are. Okay, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.